The forest was silent except for the sound of Daniel's ragged breathing as he knelt beside the unconscious woman, his calloused hands trembling as he checked her pulse. In that moment, with his daughter waiting at home and a stranger's life hanging in the balance, he had no idea that the next words he spoke would echo far beyond these woods, changing not just 2 lives, but thousands. Daniel Morrison had always believed that life was about showing up, even when it hurt. As a single father working double shifts at the lumber mill, he'd learned that lesson the hard way after his wife Emma passed away 3 years ago, leaving him alone to raise their 8-year-old daughter, Sophie. Every morning, he'd pack her lunch, braid her hair despite his clumsy fingers, and tell her the same thing his own father had told him: "We take care of people, Sophie. That's what makes us human." That particular October afternoon, Daniel was taking his usual shortcut through Whitman Forest after his shift when he heard it, a faint cry for help cutting through the autumn air. His body ached from 12 hours of hauling timber, and his mind was already running through the evening routine: pick up Sophie from Mrs. Henderson's house, help with homework, make dinner from whatever was left in the pantry. But the cry came again, weaker this time, and Daniel found his feet moving before his mind could protest. He found her about 50 yards off the trail, crumpled at the base of a steep embankment. Her designer hiking clothes were torn and muddy, one ankle twisted at an unnatural angle. She was drifting in and out of consciousness, her face pale against the carpet of fallen leaves. Daniel's emergency training from his volunteer firefighter days kicked in immediately. He assessed her injuries, used his flannel shirt to stabilize her ankle, and called 911 on his battered phone that barely had signal. "Stay with me," he kept saying, his voice steady despite the panic rising in his chest. "You're going to be okay. I've got you." The woman's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and frightened. "My phone," she mumbled. "I need to, the meeting, they're waiting." "The only place you need to be right now is alive," Daniel said firmly but gently. "Everything else can wait." She stared at him with a strange expression, as if those words were in a foreign language she'd forgotten how to understand. Then her eyes closed again. The ambulance took 45 minutes to navigate the forest roads. Daniel stayed the entire time, talking to keep her conscious, telling her about Sophie, about the deer they'd seen last spring, about anything and everything to anchor her to the moment. He missed picking up Sophie on time. He missed dinner. He missed everything on his carefully scheduled evening, but he didn't move from that woman's side. At the hospital, as paramedics wheeled her away, she grabbed his hand with surprising strength. "What's your name?" "Daniel Morrison." "Thank you, Daniel Morrison," she whispered. "You didn't have to stop." He gave her a tired smile. "Yes, I did. That's what makes us human." 3 weeks later, Daniel was fixing dinner, boxed mac and cheese again, because the truck needed new brakes and that came before groceries, when someone knocked on the door of their modest rental house. Sophie ran to answer it, then stopped dead in her tracks. The woman standing there looked nothing like the injured hiker from the woods. She wore an elegant navy suit, her dark hair perfectly styled, accompanied by a man in an expensive-looking coat carrying a briefcase. "Mr. Morrison," she smiled, and Daniel recognized those eyes. "I'm Victoria Chen. I don't know if you remember." "The woods," Daniel said, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Your ankle. Are you okay?" "Thanks to you, yes." She glanced at Sophie, who was peeking from behind her father's leg. "And this must be Sophie. Your dad talked about you the whole time we waited for help." Sophie beamed, her shyness evaporating. "Really?" Victoria nodded, then turned back to Daniel. "May I come in? I'd like to talk to you about something." Over coffee, the cheap instant kind that Daniel apologized for 3 times, Victoria explained that she was the CEO of Chen Global Industries, a technology conglomerate worth billions. She'd been hiking alone, trying to clear her head before a major acquisition deal, when she'd fallen. Her phone had shattered in the fall. No one knew where she was. "I've spent 15 years building an empire," Victoria said quietly, staring into her mug. "I have homes on 3 continents, more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and when I was lying in those woods, possibly dying, do you know what I thought about? Not my company. Not my achievements. I thought about how empty it all felt. How I couldn't remember the last time someone asked if I was okay and actually meant it." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "I'm sure people care about you. They care about Victoria Chen, the billionaire. The CEO. The deal maker. She looked up at him, her eyes intense. But you didn't know any of that. You just saw a person who needed help. And what you said, about everything else waiting, about what makes us human, it's been playing in my head for 3 weeks straight. The man with the briefcase cleared his throat. Ms. Chen has a proposal for you, Mr. Morrison. Daniel's stomach tightened. I don't want money. I'm glad you're okay, but I didn't help you for a reward. I know, Victoria said. That's exactly why I'm here. I've done some research, Daniel. I know about Emma. About the medical bills you're still paying off. About how you work 60-hour weeks and still volunteer at the fire station. About the community center where you coach Little League even though the program lost its funding. She leaned forward. I'm not here to pay you off. I'm here to ask you to help me remember what matters. What followed was the most unexpected conversation of Daniel's life. Victoria proposed something radical. She wanted to create a foundation focused on what she called everyday heroes, single parents, volunteers, community leaders who showed up when no one was watching. She wanted Daniel to help run it, to identify people and programs that needed support, to be the moral compass she felt she'd lost somewhere along the way. I don't know anything about running a foundation, Daniel protested. But you know about showing up for people, Victoria countered. You know about sacrifice and community and what actually matters. That's what I need. Not another business executive. A reminder of why any of this wealth should exist in the first place. Sophie, who'd been quietly listening from the kitchen doorway, spoke up. Daddy always says we take care of people. That's what makes us human. Victoria smiled, her eyes glistening. Smart kid. She's absolutely right. Daniel looked at his daughter, at the peeling paint on the walls, at the woman who'd somehow found her way back to thank him for doing what he'd considered simply being decent. He thought about all the people in his community struggling just like him, working hard and showing up and never expecting recognition. If I do this, he said slowly, it's not about me. It's about making sure people like Mrs. Henderson, who watches Sophie for free because she knows I'm struggling, get support. People like Coach Martinez, who bought equipment for the team with his own pension money. People who don't make headlines but hold communities together. That's exactly what I want, Victoria said. Will you help me? Daniel extended his hand, rough and scarred from years of labor, and shook Victoria's perfectly manicured one. We take care of people, he said. That's what makes us human. 2 years later, the Morrison Chen Foundation had helped fund community centers in 43 cities, provided scholarships to 2,000 children of single parents, and supported countless local heroes whose names would never trend on social media but whose impact rippled through neighborhoods like roots through soil. Victoria stepped back from daily operations of her company, finding fulfillment in measuring success not by quarterly earnings but by lives touched. And Daniel, still living in the same modest house because that's who he was, would sometimes stand in his kitchen and marvel at how a few words in the woods had created waves that reached farther than he'd ever imagined. Sophie, now 10, would catch him in these moments and hug his waist. Whatcha thinking about, Dad? Just that sometimes, he'd say, holding her close, the most important thing you can do is stop and help. Everything else really can wait. Because in the end, that's what makes us human.